Barry Lomax here, Head of Service of Development Management, has agreed to come along and just do a brief presentation on the planning process and then an opportunity for you to ask questions before we start the main part of the meeting at 7:30. So I'll hand over to Barry, but thank you for everyone for coming along.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it's not a detailed presentation. It's going to give you as much opportunity as possible to ask as many questions as you like. Now, whilst I can't, make sure you can hear me, whilst I can't clearly talk about individual planning applications, and one individual application which you'll all be familiar with is still in the process, and I'm not in a position to answer specific questions on it, I may use that as an example of where that is in the process, just to let you know. So I'm Barry John Lomax. I'm currently the head of service, or at least for the next 2 weeks before I leave the council and go somewhere else. So I'm the head of service for the next 2 weeks that deals with development management, which involves dealing with planning applications and taking enforcement action. So I don't know how familiar any of you are with the planning process. I know Mr. Rob and Mr. Punch keep me on my toes with their missives to the department, so you are slightly probably more informed than others. But as I say, we deal with planning applications. Applications are submitted to the local authority, and we shall use the application at Hook Park, the proposed application. An application is submitted. That application has been submitted to the local planning authority. And when an application is submitted, it goes through a validation process. Now, that process is one whereby we check the documentation and the plans that accompany the application to make sure it meets with the requirements of the local authority's local validation checklist. The local validation checklist is a whole suite of documents which are required, which enable officers like myself to assess a planning application. We are going through that process at present with the Hook Park application. The application came in, I think it was sometime last week, is going through the process. When we go through an application, we check to see whether all the documents are there. Those documents are things like highway assessments, flooding assessments, environmental impact assessments on large applications, a whole suite, panoply of different documents which provide background evidence that enable me and my officers to assess an application based on evidence against planning policy. When we determine whether an application is valid, or let's assume that we have determined an application is valid, we then write to residents to notify them of a planning application having been submitted. We would also, for a large application, require the developer to erect or display site notices around the site, and we also advertise the application in the local press, the comment. So members of the public have the opportunity to review. It's also on the council's website. Residents are then given 21 days within which to make comments on a large scheme like Hook Park, which is subject to an environmental impact assessment. There's 30 days to make comments. Those comments are then submitted. We take those comments into account when we're assessing an application, and we assess an application in line with the development plan. The development plan for Kingston comprises the Kingston Core Strategy 2012 and the London Plan 2021, along with the South West London Waste Plan. Legislation directs, Section 38(6) of the Planning Compulsory Purchase Act. If anybody wants to have a soporific read to help you sleep in evenings, you can read that piece of legislation, or the Section 70 of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990. Both direct that local planning authority must make a decision in accordance with the development plan unless material considerations indicate otherwise. Material considerations of significant weight are things like the government's National Planning Policy Framework, submitted initially in 2012, has gone through numerous iterations, latest iteration being 2024. The National Planning Practice Guidance, which is a document that sits next to the NPPF and provides some extra detail on how you interpret some of the national policies found in the National Planning Policy Framework. And then we have a host of things like written ministerial statements. We have any statements made at the dispatch box in the House of Commons, any guidance produced by the Mayor of London in the form of London planning guidance or supplementary planning guidance, of which there are numerous. We have any supplementary planning documents produced by the local authority are material to be reviewed, and then any guidance produced by any of the national stakeholders, Natural England, Environment Agency, so on and so forth. We, as officers, would then review the evidence, take comments from statutory bodies, Transport for London, Highways England, Surrey County Council in the case of Hook Park, with part of the site being within Surrey County Council's demise, our own local internal stakeholders, environmental health, our own highways bodies, Achieving for Children, external bodies like the ICB, the Integrated Care Board, the GLA. We take all comments from a whole host of different people, and they provide comments on specialist parts, as you'll imagine, AFC on education, the ICB on social infrastructure. We then take those representations, we take your representations, we take the background evidence we've been provided, we then assess the application against the policies in the development plan and material considerations, and we ultimately arrive at a recommendation which on a very large scheme like Hook Park would ultimately be determined by politicians taking into account the recommendation which I ultimately, or a person who will sit in my seat in the future, makes to the committee. On its route to a committee, the application will come to a forum like this, so you'll be able to make your comments in an open forum. And again, all those, as I said, are taken into account, and then the planning committee, chaired by Councillor Bainan at the end, will listen to your comments, listen to the advice of key stakeholders, and then debate an application, and then decide to either accept the recommendation of officers or to overturn that recommendation. With regards to a scheme such as Hook Park, the local authority isn't in the first instance the final decision maker. The local authority would need to inform the Mayor of London what its recommendation ultimately is, whether it is to approve or to refuse, and then the Mayor of London has the power to resolve himself to be the planning authority and to take over the application and determine it himself. So the Mayor of London does have that power. If the Mayor thinks that the authority is not making the correct decision, that's either not approving it or not refusing it, and the Mayor wants to have greater say in the process, he can recover it and make the decision himself. He has to make the decision in line, as we do, with the statutory provisions, the development plan, so on and so forth, but ultimately he can make the decision. And then ultimately, if the Secretary of State in the Ministry of Housing and Local Government disagrees with what the Mayor of London has to say, MHLCG can ultimately recover the planning application and make the decision themselves. Now, if the local authority, the Mayor, refuse the application, the developer will then have the opportunity to appeal that decision to the Planning Inspectorate, and then there would be, I imagine, a scheme of this scale would be subject to a full public inquiry, which would be presided over by an inspector, of which I shall be one in 2 weeks' time, who would then take evidence from either side, the developer and from the local authority, a cross-examination by barristers, and then the decision would be then made by an inspector on behalf of the Secretary of State. Now, I appreciate planning isn't the most interesting or sexiest of subjects, so I'm sorry if that's been rather boring 5-minute trot through the process. But if any of you have any questions, now I say I'm not here to talk about individual planning applications. I'm not, but I'll be happy for you to use as an example Hook Park in a tangential way, and I will try and respond without being too specific. But if any of you have any questions, back to Councillor Dunstan first, and then
Sue, did you have a question?
Yeah, can you just explain what an environmental impact assessment involves, please?
Yes, so the Town and Country Planning Environmental Impact Assessment Regulations 1990 direct that if a proposal is likely to have a likely significant environmental effect on the environment, they have to produce what's known as an environmental statement. That environmental statement would then assess what impacts are likely on the environment, will include mitigation within the environmental statement, and then that is assessed as part of the planning application. So you'll see in an environmental statement different topic headings. So there'll be the use of natural resources, how this development would use natural resources. Is there a likely significant environmental effect from the development in its use of natural resources? If there is, how will they mitigate it? Will there be a likely significant environmental effect on air quality as a result of the development? If there is, how will they mitigate it? And that's all contained in what's known as an environmental impact assessment, which you'll see known as an environmental statement, and that accompanies the planning application. And that's why you have 30 days as opposed to 21 days to make comments, because it's a EIA application. And that's why we have 16 weeks to make a decision as opposed to 13 weeks, because it's an EIA application. And that's governed specifically by that piece of legislation, Environmental Impact Assessment Regulations 1990. So another soporific read if you wish to fall asleep this evening.
Ian, did you have
Yeah,
something?
could you just clarify that, I think you said that the Hook Park application's gone in. Could you just clarify typically what you'd expect the time frame to be? I think you touched on a few dates there, but what would be the time frame from here to the final decision, assuming it actually went to the Secretary of State?
So government have timeframes for all types of applications, although they don't take into account the complexities of individual ones. But this application, from the day it's valid, should have a decision made within 16 weeks. That is what government say is the target for these types of applications. Now, I can't direct you to any major application that's been dealt with within 16 weeks, not in Kingston, but in any local authority, and I've worked in many of them. So I would suspect by the application, if it's valid, should be validated this week. That's assuming it has everything with it. If it doesn't, we write to the developer saying you've missed these key bits of information. If it is valid, if it's christened valid this week, its validation date will be the day it came in, so we will have lost a week. And it takes a long time to read through all the documents that are submitted and redact all the information and check it. Then you have the 30 days in which to make your representations. Within that time, the Mayor has 6 weeks to make his initial thoughts known. So then, by the time the Mayor comes back, we're already at week 7, week 8. We're then very, if not in the depths of, very close to the Christmas period. I imagine we're in the Christmas period, so there won't be any opportunities for a public forum to hear it. So there'll have to be a public forum, I suspect, in January, if the application's in a fit state. Whilst that's going on, officers will be reviewing all the documentation, we'll be looking at the viability reports, the environmental impact assessment, we'll be looking at comments from key stakeholders. When we get to around February time, we will then start crystallising what our recommendation is likely to be. We'll see whether there's minor parts of the application which need to be corrected. And then, in an ideal world, we'll be looking at a decision being made in the first quarter of next year. Which sounds like a long way away, but of course it isn't. It will soon be upon us.
Oh.
Yeah, a couple of days ago I was listening to a recording where the chair introduced a new planning officer in 2014, I think, was Barry Lomax, at the South Borough School, about the planning commissioner across the road there. I'm pleased that I heard you're actually going to do one of the appeals, are you, before you go?
Unfortunately not. Timings don't allow. My last day is on Friday, the appeal's on Monday.
Yeah, well, I wish you well. I know we haven't seen eye to eye for a lot of times, and I've annoyed you quite a few times. It's not unusual. no, seriously, I mean, it's not unusual. But I just wish you well for the future, you and your family,
Very kind. Can I say on that point, and it is important, yeah, but just on that point about maybe we haven't seen eye to eye all that often, but you've always been very courteous in the way you might not have seen eye to eye. So thank you for that. Yes.
So we've got two really important appeals coming up for Bristol Inspectorate. One is for Green Lane and one is for down here at Waltham Usher. It worries me now because one thing I've always admired, you're excellent at your job, and it worries me, have we got someone replacing you just as good?
Well, it's not for me to judge whether they're as good. That would be for you to judge whether they're as good as I am. But we are sourcing people to particularly take on the appeal at Kenwood. Now, as I'm not sure how many people in the audience are familiar with what's going on in Green Lane, but that has taken a long time in the High Court, injunctions, a lot of work has taken place. That public inquiry sits on the Monday, the 17th, I think.
We were wondering why it's been to court and we're having an appeal when there should have been a judgment from the court.
I think the court did judge on granting an injunction.
Oh, right.
And so we have an injunction. So we have an injunction to arrest what was going on site, the importation and the use. But of course, unfortunately, I don't have, or the council for that matter, have any physical powers to restrain anything that goes on. We have to follow due course and legal processes. We have, with the support of the local members and this committee, expended significant resources, both in terms of officer time and the pounds, shillings and pence, to go to the High Court, to get the injunction, to get the evidence to enable us to be successful at an interim injunction, at then a full injunction, and now to prepare for the public inquiry, which sits a week on Monday.
I won't mention any more, but I went to the last one, and I won't say any more than that. You know what my opinions were about that. I just hope we have somebody that is going to stick up, really good, to stick up for our side this time.
Well, on that green, the Malden Rushet stables, where that may be an opportunity or an example of us not seeing eye to eye. However, you made your thoughts known. We worked with your local councillors to then challenge that decision in the High Court initially, was successful to overturn what we saw as an erroneous appeal decision by an inspector. They then appealed it in the Court of Appeal, and we successfully batted it off in the Court of Appeal, and now we're in the process of a hearing which sits the week after the public inquiry on the 21st. So we did take into account your concerns, and with support from the local councillors, challenged and successful.
Can I just, because obviously we've got people here who want questions on the planning process, as it were, so as well, if we wouldn't mind. Colin, did you want to come in on
On the Russian status, I thought they were told to remove that portal. Mobile phone from site by the High Court, and they haven't. I can understand they've been told by the High Court to move it. Why haven't they?
Unfortunately, and this is the issue we have at the situation at Green Lane, the High Court, the injunction process is wholly separate to what the planning process is. So nothing stopped them from applying for permission for the caravan again to retain it, which they did, and then that was held up at the inspectorate for years. I can't even remember now when the hearing sat. That must be two or 3 years ago, and then all the court processes. So it's been a long time in the process.
It's a delaying tactic, isn't it?
I couldn't say, but you might say that.
Sue, did you have a question?
Yes, I just wondered if because we had a look on the website and couldn't see the Poppy Mill application, how soon will we be able to see it on the council website?
So as soon as it's valid, which is hopefully will be, well, we're on Wednesday already, Thursday, Friday this week, it will then go live. But the 30-day will only start for residents when it is on our website. So it's not being held back. As soon as it is on the website, you will have 30 days to which to comment. And if we're not in sync with the Surrey Comet, because of course you've got to put an advert in the Comet the week before, so if it is valid this week, it won't probably go in the Comet till next week, which means it'll actually be 30 days from the day it appears in the Comet. So it'll be more than 30 days. So this is where it gets right confusing. The site notice will say 30 days from the date the site notice goes up. Your letters will say 30 days from your letters, and the press notice will say 30 days from the press notice. And it's the latest of all of them. But representations made right up until the time a decision is made are all taken into account.
Right, and the volume is the key here. Because the number of people that you've listed who have a say in this, it worries me that residents come low down the list.
No.
What weight is attributed to the strength of feeling amongst residents?
Now, this is my final outing in public. I don't want it to be one where I annoy everybody, but unfortunately, planning is not determined on the weight of public opinion, and it is not dealt with by way of referenda. It is dealt with in accordance with the development plan. That does not mean to say that your input is not important. It is, because you will identify issues which might not be readily known by those who are making the assessment or the stakeholders who are providing comments. So your input is important, but, and I'm not suggesting you will here, but if 1,000 people write in not making material points, well, that's just as valuable as one person writing in making a material point. So it's not done on the weight of public opinion, it's done on the real considerations that you make, yes. And making sure that you, when you make your comments, it's not for me to write them for you, but quite a lot of people fall into the trap of just explaining what's going to happen. So it's 2,500 homes. Yes, great, it's 2,500 homes. You're not actually telling me what's wrong with it being 2,500 homes.
It was 2,000.
Well, I'm just making a figure. I've not seen it. Yes, sorry. So there we are.
We've not
Yes,
seen the
yes.
application. We've
So
not
there we
seen
are.
the application yet, so.
No. But this is where you need to be clear that what you think will flow from a development of that magnitude, whether you know, traffic generation could be an issue you might want to raise. What isn't very helpful is when I trawl through 100 letters that are just telling me, well, this is a building of 20 metres. Great, it's a building of 20 metres. Nobody's told me what a building of 20 metres is going to be harmful for or why. Yes, that's what's important.
And if there are on the website, it actually shows you what material considerations are taken into account. So what we need to be doing is if you're writing in with objections, you need to be keeping it to the material considerations. And, you know, they're the ones that we need to really focus on. Andreas?
Was exactly what I wanted to say. Like said, you find all the material considerations on the web page. Please use them.
Yeah, absolutely. Colin?
It's such a large application. I wonder how many officers are looking into it. Is it just one person done all this, or do you spray among the officers in?
Well, no, it would be led by a single officer, but that officer will be working with stakeholders right across the council from all departments, the waste department, highways. So one officer from the planning team will work on it, but it will consume a lot of resources from across the council who will feed into it. I'm not sure whether you'll be familiar with Eunice Hamadi. Him or his team will feed into it. We will have the Metropolitan Police Service will feed into it. Their architectural liaison officer, securing out or designing out crime officer will be involved. LFB, the fire brigade, will provide comments on it. AFC, it will touch on all parts of the council to make comments.
Before you're creating so many stipulations and paperwork, I just wondered if you've got all in your head, you know how many rules you've got to follow, and it just seems so much work for one person to...
Well, it is, and it's not for me to make our jobs grander than what it is, but of course, everybody in my team has gone off to university to train to do this, and this is, you know, and they take it seriously. Nobody sits in my chair or in my team wanting to make your life difficult or to impose on you developments. They have to follow the statutory code, make assessments in line with legislation, and ultimately arrive at a decision. And they are decisions that you may not like, and there's decisions that planning officers make where I live that I don't like, but they follow the process. And, you know, that one person who will ultimately be in my team will go through this with a fine-tooth comb, and they'll dedicate an inordinate amount of time to making sure that the job is done properly.
Rob?
It's due diligence. I haven't got front tooth at the moment, so I can't say a certain word. Due diligence, anyway. It's part of the planning process. Something like the 2,000 homes at Hook. The company doing it have actually got the money and the backup to actually go through with the whole project. We've seen so many projects now where, I know it's a DFE project, but the school at Moore Lane, I mean, they chose a contractor that went rogue. I mean, and we've seen the changeover of people owning toll, single part. You know? So is any part of the planning process they go through due diligence to say that they've got the money to actually take it through? You know?
So the planning authority deals with the development, not the developer. We are blind to who the developer is, because when permission is granted, if it is granted, it runs with the land, not with the individual. Right. So the only time that we might, as a local authority, be cognizant of the viability of a developer is when it comes to assessing their viability assessment when it comes to affordable homes. But you know, it's not uncommon for a developer to get permission and then flip it on to somebody else. That's the way the development industry works. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else got any other questions at all? No? Are you sure? This is your opportunity to... Sorry, Colin, and then... sorry, is it David? Yeah, thank you, Colin.
Back on Signal Park, when it first came out, there was 700 homes. It then went through and was passed to 750. Then, I think, then the mayor got involved, or you turned it down, I think, and then the developer challenged it, and the mayor said, no, you can do 1,200. 900.
900.
And then 1,200. This is supposed to be a suburban area, but that is not suburban. I just wonder how you've gone from 700 homes to 1,200 homes, or why they push it through, not you look like it, but why they managed to push it through and change the environment 700 to 1200 or 2000, whether it's going to be.
Well, all applications are assessed in line with the development plan, and if it meets policies at that quantum of development, it meets policies. Now, you mentioned, Mr. Robb, about the financial might of some of these developers. Now, you will know that Mayor Bergman applied for 750, was refused 750, and we both sat on the same side of the appeal and were successful in refusing 750 and having it dismissed at appeal. So, whilst they may have the financial might, doesn't necessarily count for much. They had a QC at the time, quite right, and we did. We had QC and me and you and Councillor Self at the time and others representing the authority, and were successful. So the council does not, and I know you may think we do, and I may not persuade you that we don't, but we don't act in some supine way and just accept when a big mighty developer says we're doing something. We refused the scheme on Surrey House, the scheme by the Guildhall that's now Unilever headquarters. That went to a public inquiry. We were successful. You know, when the decision is the wrong one for the authority, we refuse it and we stand by our decision with the support from your local councillors.
David.
Borough's under massive transport pressure already. Is there anything in sort of upcoming regional or local plans that alleviate the transport pressure? We already had Crossrail 2 seems to have disappeared, and Hook Interchange is just creaking under its 1959 nonsense. Is there any plans to upgrade any of this if we're going to have more development?
Well, I can't talk in general about highway improvements, because that would go through the strategic local plan process about whether there will be highway improvements. Well, every large development will need to go through a detailed highway impact assessment to understand what the risks are. Now, this scheme has the unfortunate situation of brushing up against 4 highway authorities. They propose to access on Surrey County Council land. They are a highway authority. They will have an impact on the A3, so Highways England will be the highway authority. They will have impact on TfL roads, so TfL will be a highways authority, and they impact Kingston's roads, so RBK will be a highway authority. So they will come up against all 4 possible highway authorities who will all be scrutinising this to make sure that if there are impacts, that either they are mitigated, or if they are severe, and the National Planning Policy Framework tells us that we should only refuse development if the cumulative impacts of development are severe or they have an unacceptable impact on the highway network, taking into account any residual improvements. It's to be refused, and we will be looking to make that assessment in line with those 4 key highway partners feeding into the process.
Wouldn't you need that land if you're going to upgrade the interchange?
Well, these will... Well, that is something that those 4 highway authorities will feed into the process when looking at this planning application. If they think that land is necessary to be safeguarded, there are legal routes they have to go through safeguarding land. None of the land is legally safeguarded, but this will certainly be an opportunity for all 4 of those key actors and agents to be a vital part in the process.
Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you very much, Barry, for coming along this evening. We do appreciate it, and I hope that everyone's found it really useful, which is great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you very much.
For your next adventure. So thank you.
Thank you.
So
There's no public questions on planning, is there?
No, you're okay. We'll just have a quick break, and then we'll crack on literally a couple of minutes, and then we'll move on to the main part of the business. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to this evening's meeting of South of the Borough Neighbourhood Committee. Sorry. Oh, Barry. Sorry, Stuart. Are you okay?
He's been live the whole time, including that at the beginning.
Oh, okay. Lovely. Thank you. Okay. So good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of South of the Borough Neighbourhood Committee at the Safari Hotel in Chessington, World of Adventures. A particular warm welcome to those members of the public with us tonight and to those watching online. My name is Councillor Lorraine Dunstone and I'm chair of this committee. In the event of an emergency, the emergency evacuation procedure is to leave by the fire exit out here to the left and gather in the car park alongside this building. Anyone requiring assistance should remain in their seats and an officer will assist you from the building. Anybody who wishes to follow the agenda from their tablet or smartphone can do so by going to www.kingston.gov.uk and follow the links from your council on the home page. Then go to council meeting calendar and you'll find this meeting on today's date in the calendar. There is free Wi-Fi for anyone wishing to follow the agenda on the council's website. You can log on to CWOA Wi-Fi, so Chessington World of Adventures Wi-Fi, which requires you to enter your email address, but no password is required. This meeting is being filmed for broadcast on the council's YouTube channel, and an archived version will be available to view on the channel shortly after the meeting finishes. The broadcast will be suspended during any adjournments in proceedings and if the committee resolves to consider information as exempt business. Members are reminded that microphones must be switched on and spoken into clearly for the broadcast. The microphone for public speakers does not require switching on. Please, can everyone present in the meeting also ensure that their mobile phones are switched off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting? I will start by inviting members to introduce themselves. So if we start to my left.
Hi, I'm Sue Ansari. I'm a councillor in Hook and Chessington North.
Thank you.
Good evening, Councillor Griselda Skirch, Chessington South and Morden Rushid.
Good evening, Councillor Andreas Kirsch, Councillor for Chessington South and Morden Rushid.
Councillor Sharik Mirza, Councillor for Chessington South and Morden Rushid.
Councillor Mark Bainan, Councillor for King George's and Sunray.
Thank you. And so I've already introduced myself, but Councillor Lorraine Dunstone at Hook and Chessington North Ward. We also have officers in attendance this evening and our local acting sergeant who will present reports, and I'll introduce them at the relevant agenda items. So, item 1, public questions. Thank you. We have a public question from Sue Towner. Would you like to come up, please?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I've been asked to ask this question. Please, can you tell me what measures are in place to ensure HMOs are licensed and meet safety standards? And how will residents be informed about an HMO in their neighbourhood? Thank you.
Thank you. Did anyone want to answer that? I can answer some of it. Are you happy for me to do so? It depends on... Jack? Yep, Jack. I'll let you do that. Thank you.
Yep. So there's actually a register that you could go to on Kingston's Council's website, the HMO register, the public register, and that details all the licensed HMOs that are in the borough.
But I'm asking about what measures are in place to ensure that HMOs are registered. That means people have got to make their own application, doesn't it?
Absolutely, but they can be reported, so if there's any antisocial behaviour, etc., or you can see an influx of cars parked on your road, then you could raise that concern to an officer and they can investigate. Yeah.
If I can just add, small HMOs, so those from of 1 to 6 residents, don't actually need to have there doesn't need to be a planning application, but for the larger ones, the ones from 7 upwards, would have to go through a planning process. But they're registered, and there is details on the council website.
I read that the law was 4, the maximum was 4.
Sorry. So you're talking about planning?
Yeah.
So more than 6 requires planning.
Yeah.
But when it's less than 6, then you don't have to have a licence if it's less than 5. But as long as it's forming 2 households and you're more than 5, then you have to licence. So less than 5 people is still a HMO, but you just don't have to licence.
Right.
Yeah, so all the same regulations apply, but you just have to put a licence into the council.
We'll come back with a fuller answer for you. So if you leave that with me, we'll get the officers to come back with a full answer to answer your question. Okay, thank you. Andreas, or Shaq, sorry.
Andreas just wanted to note that the smaller ones are not on the register because of that reason.
Okay.
But there are boroughs that should do selective licences where all HMOs require licensing, but we just don't have that here.
Okay.
Yeah, we just have Article 4, which is mandatory licensing, which is 5 or more.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, would you like to come forward? And if you give us your name, please, and then answer questions.
Yes, my name is Peter Smith. I just wanted to ask, currently for HMOs, there's no Article 4 in the Borough of Kingston, is there, that protects, potentially protects residents? So,
Yes, please. Thank you, Andreas.
Thank you for your question. Not at the moment, but as other boroughs, neighbours from us are at the process of doing it, we are looking into it as well. So we are at the moment looking into Article 4 across the borough, but it takes some time doing the work, but that's what we are aiming to do.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions at all? Okay, lovely. Thank you very much indeed. So we go to item 2, petitions. We now turn to petitions. We've had no notice of intention to submit a petition. Nothing through. Thank you. So item 3, apologies for absence. Kevin, do we have any apologies for absence?
We have apologies from Councillor Grocott, and I believe Councillor Ansari is trying to get you. Councillor Grocott's birthday is today.
Councillor Ansari is here.
Councillor Efileka. Councillor Efileka. Apologies.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Item 4, declarations of interest. Members are invited to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests or any other registrable or non-registrable interests relevant to items on the agenda. Do any members have any interests they wish to declare? Nope. Okay, thank you very much. Item 5, minutes. Can members agree to confirm the minutes of the South of the Borough Neighbourhood Committee meeting held on the 8th of October 2025 as a correct record? Thank you very much. So item 6, we've got community police update. If I can invite our Acting Sergeant Ollie Shearer to present his report to the committee. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Chair. Evening all. I will start with some crime we've had in the south of the borough. We've had a couple of crime spikes, mostly in October, those being burglaries and motor vehicle theft has gone right through the roof as well. There has been some action on that. We've reprioritised them as a neighbourhood team, meaning that each burglary, each vehicle theft, my team will personally visit each victim, their neighbours, people who live on roads behind them. They'll be doing CCTV inquiries, witness inquiries, and each one of those crime types will get an email sent out to all those who live in the local area within a few streets, advising them this, asking them to check their Ring doorbell cameras, asking them for any private CCTV, asking them if we can put this together. It's been slightly effective in some way. The burglary spike has dropped off. There were a couple of arrests for a residential burglary, or for 2 residential burglaries that happened in Chessington where jewellery was stolen. There's been a recent arrest from our theft of motor vehicles as well. Another priority of ours is antisocial behaviour, particularly that caused by vehicles. We've been prioritising this as well. Been doing a bit of work with Citizen Zoo down at Tolworth Court Farm. Thank you, Rob, for putting us in touch with all of them. And they've pretty much managed to make that whole area, I'd call it antisocial behaviour proof, almost entirely stopping access to those on 2 wheels getting into Tolworth Court Farm, which has really helped drop off antisocial behaviour in the whole King George's and Sunray ward. On to a bit of work we've been doing lately. A couple of weeks ago we conducted a warrant in Chessington South for some drugs. It was a really, really good result. An arrest was made. We got nearly 4 kilograms of cannabis from that, some Class A drugs, a samurai sword, another nasty-looking knife, and other things I'm sure I'm forgetting. That is street values of tens of thousands of pounds taken off the streets. So I think we're quite happy with the result for that. I think that's it from me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do members have any questions for Ollie at all? I just wondered if there was any update on, I know we had the incident on Bridge Road outside, I think it was KFC, or that area. I was just wondering if we had any update on that at all.
You're right, we did have a stabbing on the 23rd of October, I think it was. It's a CRD job, so I'm not really able to talk too much about it. My team have been helping them out where we can. It wasn't serious injuries caused. The young male victim wasn't local to the area. He is recovering well in hospital. With my help, or my team's help, CRD have got a pretty good grip on this. So I'm cautiously optimistic about that one.
Thank you. Andreas, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Ollie, for the report, and thanks for all the work you and your colleagues are doing in our neighbourhood and in the borough. Just as you mentioned the successful raid on the drugs, I just wanted, could you, as we have a good turnout of residents here today, could you perhaps please again elaborate to remind residents that they need to report everything, even if sometimes they think it's, the more the evidence you have to build up enough evidence to do the arrests and really go on people, highlighting that again. I think you might also mention the Met Engage again, which, as we have quite a lot of people here today.
No, you're absolutely right. And when it comes to drugs, especially, intelligence is all we need. For us to get a warrant to go through a door, we have to satisfy a magistrate that there is going to be a good chance of something found in there. The more residents reporting these suspicions and antisocial behaviours, the more likely it is we'll be able to get that warrant, go through a door, get a good result, get drugs off the streets and get people arrested. And you're right, that could be reported through Met Engage to us, Councillor. Met Engage, for those who don't know, is a new system launched in May for putting yourselves in touch with your Safer Neighbourhood team. It's been going really well. I think we have more than 2,000 people signed up in the south of the borough alone. I think we're at around 15% of households, which is really something quite special.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ollie? Does anyone in the public have any questions for Ollie? Thank you very much. Thank you for, please pass on our thanks for everything that you, for the rest of the team and to you to say thank you for everything, for hard work. And I know you do an incredible job in the south of the borough. So thank you, Ollie. You're welcome to leave.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to item 7, Community Grants Programme report, which you can find in Appendix A of the agenda pack. We have 3 neighbourhood grant applications tonight. We'd like to welcome Ralph Hyde to the neighbourhood committee tonight. Unfortunately, Richard's a bit poorly, so Ralph stepped in to the breach. And I'll ask Ralph to introduce each application, and then I'll ask the applicants to come forward, do a little bit of an explanation, and we'll ask members questions, and we'll go through the process. We will do each of the, we'll do the 3 applications first before making a decision on the grant amount to be given. Okay. Thank you very much, Ralph.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to reassure you Richard is on the road to recovery, and we'll be back as soon as possible, and he sends his apologies for tonight. The first application is made by Man and Boy. They're applying for £3,000 to support their Stronger Families South of the Borough project, which will provide focused support for 6 beneficiaries within the local neighbourhood. And I understand that Tom is here tonight to answer any questions and further any detail.
Thank you, Ralph, and welcome, Tom. Thank you very much for coming along this evening. So I'll pass it over to you to present. It's there. To present the request, the application. Thank you.
Maybe with the mic a bit closer. Thank you, Chair, councillors and council officers. The organisation, I think, is well known to those present this evening, so I won't say much more about what we do, but very briefly, perhaps in bullet point form. The application request is not so much for repeat funding as for enabling the organisation to reach out and provide access to families, new families who otherwise wouldn't be able to access the support. There is other fundraising that takes place to support the work. A lot of that is geographically restricted to other areas, and so therefore the geographical specificity of this funding is welcome because it supports our loyalty to our commitment to beneficiaries in the area. It's not that we couldn't do it otherwise. It would mean accessing unrestricted core funding, which, as I think people know, is becoming increasingly hard to access. So we're very thankful for the role that this specific funding plays. And just by way of brief update, the emergence of the national conversations and growing attention around the needs of struggling men and boys has been particularly helpful. So with the Netflix adolescent series, Sir Gareth Southgate's Dimbleby BBC lecture and the influential Lost Boys report from the CSJ have all shifted attention or caused growing attention to the needs of men and boys. And the stream of feedback from women, as Sir Gareth Southgate had said, is that one of the important pieces of work that needs to be done to be delivering accurate support for women and girls includes support for men and boys, particularly in disadvantaged situations, as they're often the elephant in the room sometimes at the source of where some of the situations, the challenges arise with women and girls. So that's made the conversation a bit harder. The BBC's interviewed us recently, partially because of this attention, because nationally there's not been a lot of provision. So we're proud to have been delivering impact in this area with your support, of course, in recent times. And on outcomes, the impact report, latest one, has been circulated. I think it's on councillors' desks. Possibly it's got to come round to inboxes in September. And among other things in there, you'll see beneficiaries reported, I think somewhere between 85 and 95% reported positive improvements to their relationships. So I'll pause there, and just with thanks to everyone again for helping us get to where we've got to. You're part of the story.
Thank you. Do any members of the public have any questions for Tom at all? Okay, any members of the committee? Councillor Ansari, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for bringing that to us and explaining it so well. I know this, I really appreciate what you're doing. It's because I know in so many parts of the country that there isn't much provision. So could you tell us just a little bit of who would be a family that you would work with, and how do you measure your success at what you do?
Thank you, Councillor Ansari. And the feedback, particularly in recent times from other councils, has been along those similar lines in recognising, particularly with the shift in the national conversation, that there has been, I won't disclose the name, but another county council recently has moved to a procurement model with us because there's been a recognition of a gap in local provision in this area. So it has been a focus. And so what does it typically look like? These are broken relationships between men and boys, and the referrals come through the formal social prescription framework. So that'll often mean SENCOs and pastoral managers within local schools. and also other referral agencies. Achieving for Children, for example, is a significant local stakeholder in this. And the school, one of those referral agencies will have identified the issues in the family. Often it's the mother who's a key counterpart interfacing with the organisation, and that's really important because she has a very good seat for a window as to what the challenges are, not only with the boy, but also who the right trusted male adult role model might be in his life. It'll have manifested in one of any number of different ways in the boy's emotional well-being, how that's manifesting in behaviour both at home, in the community, and in school, with attendance, for instance, and then once that referral is made, to say that the charity works with the mother and the school to identify who that trusted male role model might be. It might be the father, if he's around. It might be a grandfather, an uncle, a brother. It might be even someone else. And as opposed to, say, parachuting in a mentor for a year, and then after the program, the family having to deal with things on their own without the mentor, man and boy having had the man identified from within the family by the mother, then has a long-term arrangement to work with. So the support that's delivered by the program for a year means that both the man and the boy is still there. So after a year, but it's not just pulling out a mentor, the support is there, and so something's put in place. And the delivery operates around camps, outdoor activities, or activities that can involve vocational work, like electrical, leatherwork courses, programs. So camps, other activities, and then there are courses built around, for example, a climbing course. And the content is delivered around those three streams, those frameworks, and that's because men and boys in general, but particularly men and boys in these circumstances, yes, a lecture in a classroom setting is nice, but actually it's these kinds of contexts that allow the conversations to take place. And then moving on to the outcomes, there are pre and post surveys for the program, plus semi-structured interviews that take place with the families. And we therefore have say 360 degrees, but a holistic directional input back into the program for impact reporting from the boy, from the man, from the program delivery team, and also from the mother plus the referral agency. So maybe school, it may be others within the community, and then the impact is measured across all three metrics. So in other words, the individual, it might be the boy or the man. Secondly, their relationships with each other, how that's repaired. And then thirdly, beyond that, so within the family and then the community. And typically, and we like these in our case studies that are on the website and the impact report, so-and-so, young Sam, and he's in a different place. He's so much more confident. Things have been addressed in him that were a challenge at the start of the program. He and the adult trusted male model have clicked. He's operating different at home. He's back at school, and there's outcomes both with attendance, engagement, and performance in school. And it's really quite wonderful. Often the mother is one of the biggest champions of the program.
Thank you. Did you want to come back on anything? No. Okay. Chris Elders.
Thank you. Thank you very much for bringing this to us. I have two questions that kind of lead on to each other. You said earlier that fundraising is geographically limited. Could you explain what you mean with this? And secondly, could you then outline which other fundraising you are doing?
Sure. Thank you, Councillor. Important questions for us financially. And by geographically limited fundraising funding, what I mean is funding that has been approved on a restricted basis, with the use of the funds being limited to a particular geographical area or beneficiaries from a particular geographical area. Like, for instance, here within the south of the borough boundaries. And then the reason there's a challenge around that is because the other funding that we have is often geographically limited also, but it may be a different geography. And so if we didn't have this funding, which allows us to fulfill our commitment to beneficiaries in the local area, we don't have license to use other funding that's geographically restricted elsewhere to another geographical area. It would require using unrestricted funding, which is not so easy to come by. In terms of other fundraising we're doing, whilst the financial and fundraising climate has been challenging, we've had some positive results. We have, among local funders within, in and around the borough, strengthening partnerships, some of whom have increased their fundraising levels with us. Part of that's on, I think, also connected to the national story that people are recognizing. And beyond local funders in the area here, there's also been attention a little more further afield, so nationally, I'd say. And certainly for our financial profile is amounts that are significant for us, and that's maybe a slightly newer development for us, but that support is also welcome. Some of those are restricted, some of those are not. So that's a second stream of type of funding. A third one is perhaps on an individual basis. So we've seen fundraising develop where with individuals, there are supporters we have, and we're looking at growing that base. So I think across all three of those, I hesitated maybe mentioning names, though having said that, I think it's possible some of this is in the public domain. So I think on the accounts, for instance, I think some of the funders are already listed. One or two of them might ask for names not to be disclosed, but I think the ones that I can say that some of the larger ones regionally, so locally, have started to increase their funding. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions at all from members? Thank you very much, Tom, for coming along. We have supported Man and Boy a number of times in the past, so we'll have the discussion after we've heard all three applicants tonight. But thank you very much. If you'd like to take a seat. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll pass back to Ralph for the next application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The next application has been made by Oxygen. They put an application for £3,000 to support their mentoring programme for at least 12 residents within the south of Borough. Fortunately, we've got Charlie and John here tonight who are willing to explain the programme and answer any questions from the councillors.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming along. I'll leave it over to you for the presentation. Thank you.
I just want to reference Man and Boy and how pleased I am to see them coming here. It actually started as an auction project, and it actually started as an auction project, and it's grown to stand on its own 2 feet. And I have the privilege of being able to deliver some of the activities that engage the men, and I would wholeheartedly endorse their application if that's possible. Moving on to the Oxygen one, hopefully many of you know about Oxygen and what we do, but for those who don't, we were actually started by young people from Kingston and the surrounding areas, from local churches who wanted to reach out to their peers back in around about 1999, 2000. I was the youth worker for the local authority for the borough, who worked with the young people to help set it up. So it's something that I'm very passionate about, and that principle of having young people at the heart of what we do extends to everything, and it actually dictates our approach. I think one of the key advantages of a charity coming in and working with young people is that we can come in a neutral way and actually start from where the young person is at, and we actually sit down and ask them how do they see the world, and the aim is to sort of try and get an understanding of their perspective. And often we find that actually we sometimes can be the first to people in who actually are interested in their view. I'm not saying other services don't engage them in that way, but I think being a charity can have some advantages in opening that door. We have around 100 referrals each year. We don't work with all of them. We do try and reach out to all of them. And obviously, some young people come back and say, yes, they want to work with us. Others, we keep trying, but we can't be all things for everyone. I think what I really like about what we do at the moment is that we are able to reach young people where in crisis. And a lot of the referrals we get are of young people who are engaged in other services. So we're getting social services referrals, CAMS referrals, and in fact we're getting calls from CAMS sort of asking how we're doing what we're doing because it seems to be working. And I think our approach is very informal. It's driven by trying to understand what the young person's thoughts are about their position, where they're at, and also where they want to get to. Our phrase, our motto is believing in young people, and sometimes we find that we might be the first to actually believe that they can become the thing that they want to become. Sometimes that's not achievable, but believing in them and helping them to understand that somebody has faith and somebody is batting for them is a big thing. We've even had young people say, you know, they want to set up business as selling trainers, for instance, and well, that's great. But if they're struggling in school, they're not attending, for instance. Well, have you thought about what you need to do to achieve that? So our approach is very much driven around their aspirations, their goals for the future, and we then try and work out how do we fit all the other criteria in. So if you want to set up a business selling trainers online, you're going to need to understand, you know, your market. You're going to understand the figures, how much stock you can carry. So actually, it'd be good to have an understanding of maths. Yeah, okay. And actually, you're going to need to convince people, if this is going to be something you're going to take seriously, you're going to need to convince them that you're going to, you know, have a loan, borrow money to get the stock you need, write contracts with people. You need to be able to deliver things, so you need contracts with delivery providers. And then, so actually, you need to get some qualifications around that. And we find that sometimes young people just take that, it's only a little bit of intervention from us, and it can make a difference. And suddenly they start going back to school because they recognise the value. But we're tying things into their own aspirations and their own goals. We have a lot of ways of accessing young people and ways that they can engage with us. And that's because we find young people in different places. They might be sitting at home in their room online, not wanting to engage, socially isolated. We've got a project that works with young people online. Wednesday evening, Charlie is on our Minecraft server. And often we find that those young people also are neurodiverse as well. We have our shop in New Malden where young people can come and do work experience. They can come and volunteer. Actually, I love working. I'm there most Fridays, getting young people, just finding out what makes them tick. A charity shop is an excellent way of identifying, you know, what sparks a young person. That could be media, so they're into the cameras or stuff that comes in. It could be fashion, so they're into upcycling their clothes, want to buy vintage material, vintage clothing to sell, so little business ideas. There's a range of things that we can do with young people. I think my main message is that we meet them where they're at, and we try and walk alongside with them and help them understand themselves, help them to believe that they've got hope for the future, and try and do all we can to help them overcome the challenges and believe that they can achieve those goals. So I'll stop there. I'll hand over to Charlie, who can talk a bit more about the bid and the mentoring process.
Thanks, John. Hi, I'm Charlie Bamford. I'm Deputy CEO of Oxygen. Also, I was, about 25 years ago, I was one of the young people who was involved in the early stages of the charity. So I'm pleased to be here now presenting to you. Just to give a bit more context about the mentoring programme, mentoring's been a part of our youth work for a very long time, but formally we set up our mentoring project with support from the Young Londoners Fund in 2020 and established a referral network across Kingston and Richmond. And we work closely with referral partners, primarily schools. Schools are about 40% of our mentoring referrals. and another 40% from various kind of parts of Achieving for Children, mainly the kind of social workers within AFC, as well as teams like the youth offending team, and the remainder of referrals either come from voluntary sector partners or from young people themselves or from their parents. So that's the breakdown of how it works. It's very easy for us to evidence geographical area when we get our referrals in, and we've got a good track record of working with young people in the south of the borough. We've worked with young people through Chessington School, for example, quite extensively in the past. As John has said, it's different for each young person. We meet them where they're at. No two mentoring relationships are the same. For some young people, it might just be about getting them on track with support to access education or to re-engage in education or to access vocational training or employment. For others, we might be offering longer-term support, for example, where they've been in mental health crisis or they've got complex special educational needs. Increasingly, we're working with young people who have undiagnosed special educational needs or special educational needs awaiting diagnosis. We have supported young people to get things like EHCPs as well, alongside specialist charities that do that work. And we do not time bond our mentoring relationships. Our mentors are people who've got long, deep roots in the communities that they serve and have worked there for a long time. And we have found that that's the best way to, and also have lived experience of the issues that young people are facing. So we have, our application is to provide mentoring support for 6 young people, and then additionally social action opportunities for a further 6 young people, and we will be able to do that for young people exclusively within South of the Borough as part of the wider programme.
Thank you very much. John, may I just ask your surname for our records?
Trend.
Sorry?
Trend.
Trend. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for the presentation. Anyone, members of the public, have you got any questions at all? Okay, members of the committees? Yeah, Sue.
Thank you, John and Charlie. That was great. And so admire what you do. I just wanted to ask a little bit of the training of the mentors. Charlie, you said it was a lot to do with the experience they've already got. So can you tell us a bit more about any training? I know there's volunteers, by the sound of it, and there's the staff that do mentoring as well.
Yeah. So with the staff, we're talking about people with the long years of experience in youth work, but we'll also access extended training on things such as mental health first aid, trauma-informed practice, and all our staff have either been involved in or have gone through our mentor training programme as well. Our mentor training is part of the Mentoring Confidence Framework, which was developed by the GLA following the Young Londoners Fund in 2022. And we were part of those London-wide discussions about developing the Mentoring Confidence Framework as well. So our training kind of grew up with that quality assurance framework at the same time. And with volunteers, we equip them through that. We obviously also provide things like safeguarding training, and we'll encourage them to access other community training opportunities such as youth mental health first aid, which is offered through RBK and other opportunities like that.
That's great. Can I just say a little bit? Yes, please. Yeah, I just want, because the cost seems low to me, but I'm assuming that, you know, you've actually given your own experience as well, by the sound of it. People clubbing together and giving the mentors free training. Is that what you do as well?
Yeah, so we don't extend costs to volunteers who apply. Yeah. And the costings here are basic. They're percentage based from our kind of overall overheads of the programme across Kingston, Richmond and beyond. So they're percentage based by number of beneficiaries we're proposing in the south of the borough.
I'm with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Griseldis, do you want to come in?
I'm actually going to follow up straight on what Councillor Ansari has just asked, and ask you to delve a little bit deeper into your costings, because if I look at what we have in our papers here, you seem to be predominantly asking for staff costs. whereas operating costs, events costs and training actually almost fall a little bit by the wayside. So if you could elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by a percentage of overheads by eligible person, because even if I do add this all up across all of our neighbourhoods, it still doesn't pay someone's salary. So if you could sort of elaborate a little bit more on how you came up with those costings, that would be great.
Yeah, so the overall expenditure of our mentoring programme is about £103,000, and of that, staffing is 85,000. So it's that's the same kind of ratio as what we have given to in this application. And as I say, with the other overheads as well, they're then pared down to the beneficiaries. So we're effectively, if you were to divide our costs in Kingston by the 4 neighbourhoods, then that would exceed the remit of this grant programme. But it's 23%, I think, of the cost if you were to take the overall neighbourhood cost.
Can I also say, obviously we also apply for other funding from elsewhere, and previously we've been really fortunate to get GLA funding under the Young Londoners programme that actually sort of helped to shift us into the mentoring. We've always done mentoring, but actually that helped us to gear up and ensure that what we had, the processes we had, the theory of change was backed up, so it's research based. And I think what we're trying to do is always add value by bringing in funding into the borough. And we've always got applications out, as most charities are at the moment, really struggling to try and get funding in. And we don't normally come to neighbourhoods for grants, but it's been really challenging out there, trying to get money into, especially into Kingston, which is seen as a leafy borough. And we do, some of the mentoring that's needed is for those young people who are comparable to some of the inner city boroughs as well. But obviously we have that challenge trying to justify that spend. But for those young people, it's very significant challenges that they're facing. So, and I think, at the end of the day with mentoring, it's about people and getting somebody alongside a young person who understands them, who can relate to them. And it doesn't always work. That's why we have much of our staff team are going out. I'm mentoring some young people on Fridays at the shop, and also throughout the week. I've got a lad that I'm working with who I've been working with for four years. He's just applied yesterday for his first job, having not attended school for 4 years. So we are working with some of the most acute needs, and it does require people with those skills and that understanding of the context in which we're operating, and also being able to go into things like child in need meetings and work with other partners. What I'm actually looking to try and do is to recruit more people, more mentors, but ideally we'd like to be able to pay them for the work they're doing, so that we can retain them and not just rely on volunteers. Volunteers are absolutely brilliant, but to be able to pay them and reward them for that work that they do, because it's becoming more significant of an ask. So.
Okay, thank you. Andreas.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, John, and thanks, Charlie, for elaborating on the work you're doing and the great work you're doing. I was just wondering, John, you said earlier, just for the benefit of everybody in the meeting, not everybody might know what CAMS is. You said, how you get people referred to. If you could just explain a bit more what the CAMS is, so for everybody's benefit and understanding.
Yes, CAMS is Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service, and they are particularly stretched. They have tiers. We have young people being referred to us. Obviously, the earlier we can get them, the better. But we do have young people who are waiting for CAMS support at tier 4, which is the sort of highest level, and that needs sort of one-to-one counselling, and that they can be waiting, 6 months, even 2 or 3 years for that to happen. And some of the young people I'm working with, it feels like we're doing some of that work, and we're not equipped. We're not trained as counsellors, but actually sometimes what we're doing does help them get to that point, and sometimes accessing those services is very difficult for young people if they're not trusting of other agencies, if they don't believe that it's going to help. So we often do a lot of the work to enable them to access those services when they become available. But we have also got some of our volunteers. We've got one volunteer who's already trained as a counsellor, level 4. He's going to do the youth counselling programme as well. But that's the calibre of people that we're trying to get on board to help the young people, to ease that burden as well. So yeah, I think CAMS does a wonderful job, but it's so stretched that some of the need out there it feels like we're climbing a mountain that's icy and very difficult to feel that we're making headway at times, but that's what it is.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else for any other questions at all? No. Thank you very much indeed. If you'd like to take a seat. Thank you for the presentation. So, Ralph, I'll pass over to you to introduce the third application, please.
Thank you again, Chair. The final application is from the Kingston Tamil Heritage Group, who are applying for £1,100 to support the Kingston Tamil Heritage and Harvest Festival, which is going to be held for the second year, and if my recollection serves correctly, at Richmond Challoner School on the 25th of January next year. Councillor Thaylan is here to tell us all about it. I'm sorry, I didn't ask your name. Sorry?
Dr. Nathan, yes, absolutely.
Dr. Nathan, if you'd like to come forward and tell us more about the wonderful festival and answer the councillors' questions.
Good evening, thank you. Just want to, for correctness this evening, just wanted to check that the committee are happy for Councillor Thailand to speak this evening on the application.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Lovely, thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good
Chair
evening.
and all the councillors. We have applied for a grant of £1,100 towards the celebrations of Tamil Heritage Month and Harvest Festival on the 25th of January next year at Richard Challoner School. This is organised by the Tamil Heritage Group, which consists of 4 different organisations. The one is Centre for Community Development, which is a registered charity and based in Kingston. And the second one is Tamil Information Centre, then Kingston Tamil School and Surrey Tamil School based in New Malden. So we have been doing this festival since 2022. The first 3 years we had it in the Jubilee Square open air stage, but unfortunately the weather hasn't been very kind for us, so we had to move into Richard Challoner School. And last year we held the celebrations in Richard Challoner School, and we are planning to hold it again at the same venue. The celebration consists of a small procession to start with, and there will be music, dance, and speeches afterwards. And this gives us an opportunity to showcase the long history, culture, and the traditions of Tamil community, and also it gives an opportunity to give awareness to the other communities who live in the borough. We have had very successful celebrations in the past, and we have had very good feedback, and there were lots of people. I'm sure some of you have all attended these events, and it gives awareness about our community. And that's it. Does anyone want to carry on?
I'm here mainly to support Dr. Silvanal.
As Doctor said, this is the fifth event, and many of you have attended in the past. It's mainly to raise awareness about the Committee of Heritage. As you probably know, Tamil Committee is the Tamil is the second most spoken language according to the 2021 census, and we estimate around 16,000 Tamils here. Now, we applied to the New Modern Neighbourhood mainly, and the Council Award funding from the Surbiton Neighbourhood, but we were informed that we had to share the cost with all the neighbourhoods, and the committee spread throughout the borough. So that's why this is the first time we have applied to the South Borough, and there is a large committee in South Borough as well, particularly Sundry Estate, King George's, and Chester Northern Hook as well, mostly. So that's one of the reasons we applied here. If you like to, our course, if you look at the budget, our course is mainly overhead. It's all purely run by volunteers. It's the whole venue, the materials, sound system, publicity. That's for the most cost is. And the partner organization, we put money in as well, and we get sponsors. So that's how it's covered. But most of the work is done by the volunteers. Yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Has any member of the public got any questions at all? No? Okay. Members of the committee? Any questions at all? Okay, so I have one. I know you mentioned the large community in south of the borough. Do we know roughly how many have from south of the borough have attended your events? To give us a clue, an idea of how many people this. If you've got a split at all.
It's very difficult to say. Even I think there are few organisers who lives in the Sundry Estate area. But I'm sure there are many more people attend. We don't really keep count of that, but there's a large community in the Sundry Estate particularly.
And lots of our volunteers come from the area as well, Sundry Estate and South Borough.
Anyone else got any questions? No? Well, thank you very much. That was a bit easier. If you'd like to take a seat, thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much for those that came along this evening. I will now move from the chair the following recommendation. That the committee considers an application for a £3,000 neighbourhood community grant from Man and Boy as set out in paragraphs 5 to 12 of the report. Number 2, an application for a 3,000 neighbourhood community grant from Oxygen as set out in paragraphs 13 to 18 of the report. Number 3, an application for a 1,100 neighbourhood community grant from the Tamil Heritage Group as set out in paragraphs 19 to 24 of the report. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you. Councillor Kirsch. So, at this point, I can go back and confirm. So I'll get to that point here. Obviously, we've received these applications in. We only have, so the total of applications tonight was 7,100 if we agree to them, all three. We currently only have £5,285 left within the community grant funding. So we're £1,815 from being able to, if we wanted to grant the full amounts, we would be that less. So what we want to do is have a debate between us, and I'd like to hear your comments on each of the applications, and I'll start with members. Any comments on the three applications? Yes, Griselda.
Thanks, Chair. I think the three applications, all three of them, are worthy of support, and sort of not giving anything to one of them would probably I would not be very comfortable with. So we need to find a way to slice the cake, in essence, that, because all of them have merits and benefits clearly stated for us and our community down here. So my perhaps suggestion would be that we debate and then see how we can come to an agreement so that everybody gets some benefit out of this.
Absolutely. I'd like to go next. Yep, Mark.
Yeah, excuse me, sorry. Yes, thank you everyone for your presentations, and it's great to see all the good work that goes on in the neighbourhood. Just, yeah, echoing your points, I mean, I think, yeah, they're worthy. I don't know if we can kind of reduce them proportionally. Is that kind of a way we could do it to, based on the amounts they've applied for, and you could have just reduced them? That's a way of doing it. I think that might be, well, we'll see what everyone else thinks, but that would be what I might suggest as a starting point. Thank you.
Thank you. Andreas.
Thank you, Chair. And again, thanks to all the three applicants. Again, I mean, you all made a really good case for why, you know, you're it's a worthy cause to support the work you're doing. So thanks again to Man and Boys for the application and for the suggestion. As far as I understand it, obviously the money given to in addition to the money you already raised or have from other funding streams would obviously support young boys in south of the borough who are struggling, which you then mentor and try to give them a role model, a male role model from working together with the mother, as you explained it. So if I see it correctly, as we said, you know, we would love to give everybody, you know, the full amount, but unfortunately we have not enough money. So if I see it, if we would give less, that would mean you could engage with less cases in the borough, most likely. In our neighbourhood. And the same again for Oxygen. Again, thank you for all the hard work you're doing over all the years. And again, I mean, it's great stuff. And as Griselda said, and Mark, you know, we would like to support all of you, but I think it's a similar thing. Again, like you said, you would 6 and additional 6. If it is a reduced amount, I suppose it would be in the end less people you could support with the money, and appreciate the issues and know with the GLA and how they reduced funding and how difficult it is for you guys to acquire money. And going back to the Tamil Heritage Month, I had the pleasure and the honor to attend all the previous events, and it always has been great, and I clearly see the reason why you want to move into Richard Challoner. The outdoor event was always lovely, but the weather is a challenge, and January always is quite cold. And again, it's amazing work you're doing, and like you said, you know, in your introduction, the outreach to you know, raising the awareness of the Tamil community and Tamil heritage, and for our Tamil communities that have a point to celebrate. And again, what I always love about Kingston, it's not just one community celebrating, you know, at all these events yet from all communities joining in the Thai Pongal and the heritage celebrations from all other communities. We're celebrating together in Kingston. And again, like you make the case, in south of the border, there are a lot of Tamils living in our communities here as well, and obviously they benefit from this, and everybody benefits who joins in, and it's open for everyone. So it's really difficult for us tonight to divide the money up. So, but again, thanks everyone for the great work you're doing.
Does anyone else? Yes, Sue.
I thoroughly agree with all what's been said. Thank you, Tom, Man and Boy, and for your questions. They were particularly good at answering my concerns, and with your all the pre and post surveys you do, I'm really happy that you see the difference and you've actually got it. So that's great, and it affects, and it's about mental health and keeping families together, which I love. And John and Charlie from Oxygen, fantastic. I really, really admire what you're doing. We've learned more about the training of the mentors tonight, and you've explained it. And I know you give a lot of free time to this yourself, so I really do admire you. Dr. Nathan, thank you very much for explaining it, and Councillor Tai, your support. And I know particularly at this time where people are feeling quite vulnerable, it's important to be together, and I know you're inclusive of everyone as well, which we need to do. So yes, I'm with the people that are saying let's do this proportionately if possible, please, Chair.
Thank you, Sue. Any other comments at all from members? Andreas.
I just tried to do some quick maths from the suggestion from Mark. If you would give everybody a equal funding, obviously in a reduced amount. I just tried out if you give 75% to everyone, that we would still be 40 pounds short.
We've worked it out 74%, and we get it exactly right. Thank you, everybody, for your comments, and I wondered if we can agree the recommendation at 74% each, which would be would work at 2,300 for man and boy, 2,300 for oxygen, and £685 for the Tamil Heritage Group.
74% is 2,220, not...
Is that?
Yeah, it's 2,220, 74%.
Maths.
Yeah.
Or 30.
Not 230, and not 2,000.
230, all right, okay.
Sorry, what's this?
Sorry. I failed numeracy at school. I admit it. Pass it to greater than I.
Sorry, Chair. How does this?
75% would be...
How does this sound?
Oh, and what about the Tamil? 825. Lovely. Is everyone happy with that? Agreed? Is that unanimous?
Yes, agreed.
Lovely. Thank you.
Can I get confirmation? What is the Tamil amount?
The Tamil amount was
814, I think. 2,220.
And 800. I think we are using different maths here.
What did you come up with, Ralph?
824 to round it off.
Lovely.
824.
824. Yeah. 825.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's all agreed unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the applicants coming this evening. We really appreciate you coming forward with those applications, and we know they're all worthy causes, and we're happy to be able to support. So thank you, really appreciate it. So, as unfortunately we've heard, Richard won't be here, isn't here this evening for item 8, the community manager's verbal report. So we'll go to item 9, which is decisions progress update, which is within the agenda papers. So that's for information. Along with item 10, the work programme. We'll go to item 11, urgent items authorised by the Chair. There are no urgent items, you'll be pleased to hear. So we'll go to the closing of the meeting. There being no further business, this meeting is now closed at 8:37. Thank you very much, members. Certainly, we'll make sure